Zaccaria Pinball was founded in 1974 by three Zaccaria brothers, Mario, Franco and Natale. The company headquarters were located in Calderara di Reno in Bologna, Italy. Between 1975 and 1988, they produced 50 different models produced under the Zaccaria brand, and another 5 released under the Technoplay banner. Marino was the company's sales director, Franco served as production director, and Natale served as the creative director. Most Zaccaria tables were designed by self-taught visual artist Lorenzo Remondini. Even the best businessmen cannot build a successful business without a creative force behind them, and Lorenzo Remondini was one of the driving forces behind Zaccaria. Upon hire, Lorenzo immediately showed he was an excellent artist. His method of work was to always seek perfection. He designed everything by hand, which took a long time. Each model was composed of 12 colors and then 12 separate designs components, such as the back glass and the playfield, each one hand-drawn with pen and ink. A single pinball art package took 2 months to design, and Lorenzo often worked on them long into the night. All this work was rewarded by appreciation from the customers, and even today his artwork is highly regarded by collectors. Zaccaria's first pinball machine release in 1975 was the single-player electromechanical game called 10 Up. 1975 saw 3 other table releases titled Red Show, Lucky Fruit, and a 10 Stars 4-player version. In 1976, Zaccaria releases Wood's Queen along with 2 and 4-player variants tables. 1977 Zaccaria was beginning to hit its stride and brought 7 new pinball tables to market. The titles were Moonflight, Aerobatics, Supersonic, Nautilus, all of which were single-player title. Circus, Universe, and Combat were 4-player games. Combat was the first Zaccaria pinball table that was produced with solid-state electronics, bringing about the quick decline of electromechanical games, with only one electromechanical table produced in 1978, the single-player table titled Queen's Castle. Zaccaria released the solid-state tables titled Winter Sports, Future World and House of Diamonds as 4-player games and Strike and Ski Jump as single-player games during the remainder of 1978. 1979 was a pivotal moment in pinball history and Zaccaria's company history when Zaccaria gained strength as most other smaller companies stopped production of pinball machines or went out business completely. Due to the innovation and introduction of modern solid-state electronics, the high cost of transferring production lines from electromechanical to solid-state systems, the surviving companies made conversion kits for other manufacturers. This left Zaccaria as the sole surviving Italian pinball manufacturer, releasing in 1979 the titles Shooting the Rapids, Hot Wheels and Space City, the last single-player game Zaccaria released. In 1980 only 3 tables were released by Zaccaria, Fire Mountain, Star God, and Space Shuttle, but all were great commercial successes. Zaccaria releases the tables Locomotion and Earth, Wind and Fire in 1981. Again, both were smashing successes commercially for the company. Thus far, solid-state machines didn't differ all that much from predecessor electromechanical games. The same bumpers and targets, and table designs were virtually identical. The 1982 Zaccaria releases Pinball Champ 82, a table that brought radical change. This table was new in all aspects of design. It had a new elevated second mini playfield where you had to spell out the word champ with the drop targets and 2 flippers within a given time limit for bonus points. The other major innovation was the introduction of speech. The first thing the players heard upon inserting coins was "Challenge the Champ." During play, the game told players about different shots to earn bonus points or rewards. Thanks to all these new features, these games offered a new level of replayability and thusly remained enjoyable to play up until the early 90s without customers getting bored of them. Thanks to the smashing success of Pinball Champ 82, 2 other machines were made with a very similar layout, in which the main feature being the upper elevated playfield. One of these releases was the table Soccer Kings, featuring only 1 flipper on the upper playfield used to pass the ball past a rubber goalie and into the goal, which was present in place of the drop targets. A small 2-digit display showed the number of goals that could be shot once the ball was passed to the upper playfield level. Soccer Kings was one of Zaccaria's biggest sellers, in part due to the fact it was marketed at the same time of the soccer's International World Cup. 1983 also saw the release of Time Machine, the table that offered the ability to change between time periods by changing the playfields, depending on what shots the player made. When traveling to the future, a large part of the upper playfield raised out, offering bumpers and a few extra targets to the player. Zaccaria developed a unique and patented feature on their games called the Game Time Bonus, which added the possibility of each player getting as many balls as they wanted through a period of time. The length of bonus time was determined by the gameplay of the last ball and could last up to 99 seconds. Another successful 1983 table release was Farfalla, which was virtually an advanced version of Pinball Champ with many more drop targets and a completely different theme, butterflies. In 1984, Zaccaria released two new models, Devil Riders and the more well-known Magic Castle. During 1985, Zaccaria brought to market the tables titled Robot, where robots rise up from the surface of the playfield. Clown, where the main attraction was a card traveling back and forth on a train that you had to hit with the ball. Clown lacked a speech board, which players thought made this table uninteresting and dull. The final release, Pool Champion, was a simple but rather popular pool-themed machine with a unique design. 1986 brought about four new tables. Mexico 86, which was made as a tie-in to the World Soccer Championships again, but it wasn't nearly as commercially successful as Soccer Kings. This was due partially to the lack of the upper playfield feature, and the goalie was moved to the main playfield instead. Zaccaria, on the other hand, the table released directly after Mexico 86, was a great hit, as it had new ramps and other new features. This game had a notable skill shot, and as soon as the ball was in play, it was all about defeating your enemies. The table incorporated a tunnel which fit in great with the theme of the Tarzan-like character fighting jungle beasts on the back glass art. This game played actual music for different shots, which was also a fan-favorite feature of this game. Also in 1986, Zaccaria made a conversion kit for the Bally's 35 pinball system called Mystic Star. This table was nothing more than a playfield and new EPROMs bundled for use in any normal-sized Bally pinball machine. 1987 was the beginning of the end for Zaccaria Pinball as a company. Spooky, which had significantly less targets, and about 40% of the playfield was empty, again fans and players saw this table as boring. The only redeeming feature noted were the blinking owl eyes in the back glass. The other machine made in 1987 was Stars Phoenix, whose table design featured floating targets that spelled out Phoenix. When introduced, looked neat, but they were more annoying and made the table less playable. The first version released to the public had a purple cabinet, while the second cabinet released featured a black cabinet, and the game's name was also changed to New Stars Phoenix. There were very few units produced of these models, as the factory was almost closed by that point in time. Zaccaria was arguably the only major non-North American-based pinball manufacturer who managed to create internationally successful pinball machines and export them internationally. What is known by few pinball fans is that between 1983 and 1985, Zaccaria also made original video games. Zaccaria released games titled Money Money, Jackrabbit, which had 3 variants, and Shooting Gallery. All developed and released in the golden age of video games, but weren't really successful commercially, which essentially forced Zaccaria to stay in the field of pinball until their demise. Zaccaria was briefly reorganized under the label Mr. Game before ending production. The company Mr. Game produced pinball machines from 1988 until 1990. Under the Mr. Game label, the company introduced a radical redesign of the traditional pinball cabinet. The commonly known rectangular cabinet containing the playfield was updated into a more modern look with a different shaped box and trigger buttons for flipper control. The legs were also more angular in support compared to the mostly vertical legs used by other manufacturers. Additionally, the backbox eliminated the traditional numeric or alphanumeric score and status displays in favor of a small color TV screen, sometimes containing video game elements. After bankruptcy, the factory in Bologna of Zaccaria was sold to Technoplay in San Marino, that produced pinball machines from 1987 to 1989 and is still in business as an importer, reseller and maintainer of pinball machines, spare parts, arcade and vending machines, and other amusement games. Technoplay is managed by Mauro Zaccaria, the son of Marino Zaccaria, one of the founders of the company.